Mexican culture and the heroin epidemic in the United States. Most Mexican descendants currently reside in Arizona, California, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. A large portion inhabit the upper Midwest of the United States. Contrary to popular belief, most live in urban areas. They are mostly employed in factories, mines, and construction, while others work on farms in rural areas. Unemployment is high. Most fail to complete high school, although the culture is changing to encourage education. Hispanics are the largest minority group in the United States. According to 2010 census, 16% or 50 million reside in the United States, as compared to 13% in 2000. More than half of the growth of the total population is due to the Hispanic population. Mostly identify as Mexican, Puerto Rican, or Cuban origin. Americans with Hispanic origins make up 63% of the total population according to the 2010 census, with the most concentration in California. Hispanics are more likely to live in poverty than non-white Hispanics. These are a few Mexican Americans that you may identify. Mexico is bordered by Guatemala and Brazil to the south, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California to the north. To the east is the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. To the west is the Pacific Ocean. Mexico City is the capital. The climate is diverse from tropical to desert. The terrain is high rugged mountains to low coastal plains and high plateaus. Mexico is located in the southernmost part of North America. It shares a 2,000-mile border with the United States. It is often referred to as the United Mexican States. It is made up of 700,000 total miles, which is almost 3 times the size of Texas. In comparison, it is about 1/5 the size of the United States. Mexico was initially inhabited by Indians until the Spanish arrived around the 1500s. Many Spanish married Indian women, adopting Indian textiles, pottery, and metalworking skills. They also learned advanced skills like math, reading, writing, painting, sculpting, and architecture. Spanish discovery of and ultimate conquest of Mexico was the beginning of destruction of existing civilizations and culture. The Spanish stole riches and often took them back to Spain. The missionaries were sent over to convert the Indians to Christianity. The colonization of Spaniards led to the loss of the original Aztec culture, and assimilation occurred. Criollos are known as descendants of the Spanish who were born in Mexico. Mestizos are descendants of Spanish and Indian who were intermarried. The two groups united to form the Los Insurgentes, which eventually overthrew Spain and helped preserve their culture. Mexico was colonized by the Spanish from 1521 until Mexico gained its independence in 1810. Texas at the time was sparsely populated after having been neglected by Spain. The Los Insurgentes allowed the U.S. citizens to inhabit the land, but they did not adapt the Mexican culture or language. Mexico abolished slavery in 1829 and found they could not enforce the laws in Texas. In 1835, Mexico replaced the current federal system with a centralized republic to gain more control. This led to Texas seeking its own independence. This was the beginning of the Mexican-American War in 1845. Cinco de Mayo is celebrated in the U.S. as Mexican Independence Day, which happened in 1862. The Mexican Revolution occurred in 1910 after being under the unfair dictatorship of President Diaz for 31 years. This led to the current government today, which is a federal government operating under a centralized government. The current president is Enrique Peña Nieto. He was elected in 2012 to be president. To be president in Mexico, you must be a natural-born citizen, with at least one parent who is also a natural-born citizen. You have to be a resident for at least 2 decades, be 35 years or older. He will serve a 6-year term and win by most votes, not majority votes. He can only serve as one single term in office. He is also known as the Supreme Commander of all armed forces in Mexico. The primary religion in Mexico is Roman Catholicism. Pictured to the right is the Virgin of Guadalupe, who is considered their patron saint. Some of the other religions that are acknowledged by Mexicans is Presbyterian, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons, Lutherans, Methodists, and Baptists. The Aztec religion is no longer practiced once colonization took place. The Aztecs believed in multiple gods and believed strongly in supernatural forces, which is still incorporated in some current practices. Religious practices include baptisms, weddings, and funerals, along with confirmation and communion. They seek priests for prayer, make promises, light candles, and visit shrines. The belief in the Roman Catholic Church is influenced by ancient Indian practices like voodoo and witchcraft. Brujeria is a supernatural or emotional illness caused by evil forces, which are considered hexes and spells. Homes usually contain shrines and pictures of saints. Candles are lit and prayers are said. Statues with flowers and candles are used in Catholic churches within Hispanic populations. To promote health and wellness, most Mexican Americans pay homage to the patron saints in their homes and local churches. Symptoms of brujeria include paranoia, hallucinations, mania, external sources of control, depression, and anxiety. Motives for hexes and spells include hatred, jealousy, and envy. Some Mexican Americans believe in demons. Pictured to the right is a Mexican witchcraft market. Mexican culture believes in an external locus of control. If you are healthy, it is considered good luck, or a reward for good behavior. If you are unhealthy, it is seen as punishment. The concept of hot and cold, wet and dry is believed to have originated from the Hippocratic theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, which carries in temperature and moisture. An imbalance in the hot and cold, wet and dry is considered punishment for evil thoughts and actions. Examples of hot and cold conditions. Hot is fever, infection, diarrhea, rashes, sore throat, constipation, ulcers, and kidney problems. Cold includes cancer, pneumonia, menses, teething, tuberculosis, stomach cramps, joint pain, and earaches. The theory of hot and cold imbalance is thought to be brought on by long-term exposure to the elements. The head, arms, and legs are considered cool. The stomach is considered the focus of heat in the body. Imbalances of hot and cold are considered digestive, so to ensure good health, both hot and cold, food must be ingested. Thus, the individual has to adjust the external environment according to the theory to maintain balance. It is important for healthcare professionals to understand the theory of hot and cold. Penicillin is considered a hot medicine. For instance, if a female gives birth, that is hot, so she must avoid hot foods like pork. A pregnant woman is considered hot, and to decrease warmth, she is told to bathe often and take walks outside. If she is unable to produce breast milk, it is from coldness. Warmth is thought to increase production. Women physically carry their children on them and sleep with them during the first year of life. Part of the weaning process is to place the child on the floor after 1 year. This is considered cold. This may bring on anger and depression, which is considered a lack of physical warmth. Folk medicine practices are handed down from mother to daughter. Folk healers may be a wife, mother, grandmother, or elderly relative. The belief that health is a matter of chance and controlled by forces in nature is important to understand in Mexican culture. The curanderismo is their folklore belief system. The curandero is seen for major sickness, illness, such as mental, physical, and emotional illness. He or she is seen as having a God-given gift and is usually consulted before Western medicine is sought or used in conjunction with it. The healer is able to provide reassurance to the patient by giving hope and offering trust. The family and community support the practices of the healer, which gives the patient a sense of control. The curanderos are seen as personal because they tend to know the family and are considered to have a power over witches, since they get their power from God. Treatment includes supernatural rituals such as herbs, prayer, diet, and magic. They encourage food, water, and air to maintain health. Witches who practice black magic are sought last in the healing process if all else fails. Folk-related illnesses include mal-ojo, or evil eye, susto, which is magical fright or the soul leaving the body, and empacho, which is abdominal pain from a young child ingesting food into the belly, which becomes stuck. Treatment for empacho includes massages and restoring the hot and cold balance of the body. Healthcare maintenance in Mexico is afforded to those who can afford it. Unfortunately, less than 10% of the population in Mexico has private coverage. Most only seek care in the event of an emergency due to out-of-pocket cost. They are a mostly reactive culture, since they believe that it is God's will if they get sick. Prevention includes maintaining a balance of hot and cold, maintain a balanced diet, consulting the healer when needed, and amulets may be worn to prevent the evil eye or evil spirits. Herbs, such as teas, can be used to help prevent or treat sickness. Men and women alike in Mexico are expected to work. Women earn less and are less educated. Most Mexicans are laborers and follow the social hierarchy of wealth rules the poor. There is an unequal distribution of wealth in Mexico. The top 20% of income earners account for 55% of Mexico's income. The wealthiest in Mexico are white people. They are present-oriented. They like close personal space, and the male in the family is considered the chief. There are variations of biological illnesses such as diabetes type 2 and hypertension. Tuberculosis, due to overcrowded living situations, is dominant in Mexico, along with skin disorders and nutritional problems. The poor are pulled to the attractiveness of money and power that the Mexican cartel offers. This way, they can afford decent housing and health care, thus leading us into the heroin epidemic in Mexico and United States. Most heroin comes from Mexico, where poppies grow well in the mountains along the Pacific coast. As cheap Mexican heroin fuels an increase in the addiction in the United States, the Mexican government does not know how much opium is actually being cultivated in their country's border. There are more than 8,250 people who die a year from heroin overdoses. It has become the drug that the addicts can't afford. It is the fallback drug when they can no longer afford pills. Heroin causes a number of problems in personal relationships and to our society as a whole. It can cause broken marriages, lost friendships, destruction of the family unit, domestic violence, child abuse, loss of child custody, and financial problems for you or your loved ones. The most important traffickers are from Jalisco, a country near the Pacific coast. They have a system of selling heroin across the United States that resembles pizza delivery. The dealers are very low profile. At home, they are bakers, butchers, and farm workers. A large part of the labor pool in Jalisco hire heroin drivers for $300 to $500 a week, so you can see how this would appeal to low-income earners. The Jalisco boys, who are heroin dealers, migrate to prosperous mid-sized cities that are predominantly white, but have had a large Mexican population where they can blend in easily. The heroin delivery system appeals to them because they are not associated with the Mexican cartel. The upswing in heroin availability in the United States is likely due to high levels of heroin production in Mexico, and Mexican traffickers are now expanding into white heroin markets. And as you can see, it is moving into the upper Midwest. Social factors affecting health care include Mexico's drug trade and the cartels. The violence has increased in the country, and we are seeing the overflow of drug violence in the United States. Mexico produces and distributes marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine to most of the world. Drug trafficking is a lucrative business for the Mexican cartels. Many cartels are fighting for the profits in producing and distributing drugs. Thus, the drug cartels' attempt to force the government to back down is terrorizing their public. The drug cartel challenge the safety and security of businesses and environments for large and small companies and the average everyday citizen. The authorities in Mexico claim that the tourist areas in Mexico remain safe for visitors, although there have been reports of violence in the popular resort areas of Acapulco, Puerto Vallarta, and Taxco. The heroin epidemic fueled by Mexican cartels have been confirmed by Congress by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, or the DEA, leading to crime and violence. It has been confirmed that the violence includes drug protection, gang violence, and violence here due to addiction. Since 2010, the overdose deaths by heroin have tripled. Immigration has increased, and there have become widespread acknowledgement of this problem and attempts are being made to try and help and fix the problem. The ways of smuggling drugs into the United States have become interesting. We know that there have been tunnels. It's always been smuggled by planes. Now they're using submarines and fake carrots, as you can see in the trucks below, to smuggle in drugs in various fruits. They are actually filling frozen animals, and there are many, many other secretive and creative ways. The cartels are ruthless. They're dangerous. They slaughter. They assault authorities with high-tech weapons. They threaten to kill people. They kidnap. They've doubled our murder rates. And now the U.S. areas near the border, the fear is spilling over from the violence. Mexican cartels are the association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high level and restricting competition for a drug dealer. They control the heroin distribution patterns. They have established control in crucial transportation and distribution infrastructures and have been able to continuously supply the U.S. with heroin. The media constantly covers this topic, especially for the debate here recently. Both candidates have a plan for immigration and the crime and drug issues in our country. That alone shows how important this is in our country. Our current President-elect Donald Trump has also mentioned building a wall and having Mexico pay for it. They make billions by doing this, and there's a huge part of their culture to sustain. Often, if the Mexicans or Hispanics refuse, they choose to not go along with the plan, they are forced or they know the consequences, which most often results in death. Heroin addicts in the United States, as we all know, are typically stereotyped. We look for them to be junkies, homeless, steal or rob. They're known as criminals or bad people, dirty, they're unemployable, they're easy to tell who they are. They come from broken homes, or addicts do this to themselves or they'll never change. But in all reality, addiction is a sickness, and they may have good jobs, dress nice, appear to be good, normal people, but unfortunately, they're doing damage to their lungs, heart, kidneys, and their mind. Signs and symptoms of addiction or withdrawal is itching, nausea, vomiting, tiny pupils, sleepiness, nodding off, slow breathing, flushed face, constipation, not eating, and wearing long sleeves to cover track marks. Now, how has this affected us? Our doctors have cut back and increased the monitoring on prescription painkillers. According to Kelly Dunn, a researcher at Johns Hopkins, she said, "You have to make sure you find the balance between having painkillers for those who have pain and need them, and having them so widely available that they are abused." Opiate addiction has become so widespread in America, we have to correct this problem from every direction, from the addiction problem to the drugs coming to the United States. There's been a huge increase in rehabs and attention on helping mental illness in the United States since the heroin epidemic began. Some people who have been on effective pain regimens in the past are now seeing cutbacks due to the current abuse and are suffering. For instance, most providers are now trying nerve blocks and non-narcotic pain medications. New opioid pain medication requirements. Random drug testing, pill counting, limits on the quantity of a prescription that is written. You have to follow protocol, not level of pain. Patients' pain medication require contracts that cannot be broken. Some providers are afraid to prescribe due to the enormous cutback. Some are prescribing non-narcotic pain medication all the time. While this has helped the widespread amount, this is also hurting patients who have chronic pain. They are having trouble managing their pain that they've had before. These measures are wonderful in controlling abuse, but have affected people in pain. For instance, in the emergency room, providers are hesitant to give narcotics even in small amounts for acute injuries because of the high rate of addiction in America. This causes some people who have to cope with pain until the injury is resolved. If we could get a handle on the drug trafficking in the United States, thus reducing the prevalence of addiction, then we could cut down on the drug seekers and focus more on chronic and acute pain, reducing the fears of addiction.